grand challenge is issued on Takami, and he doesn't stand a chance.
Steve is a really likable guy. He has always good mood.
Saphir and Steve duking it out. Steve will find the kill.
About Sprattle, he's really likable as well.
I've looked it, I've got this one.
And I think in a few years he's gonna be one of the top supports.
Oh, he's an engage. Ilias goes in, looks for Kami.
Ilias, he's kind of the captain, I would say, from the team.
Go! Let's go!
Nice, boys.
Get him, get him! Nice!
Tipping behind.
Ikas, I would say he's a bit shy.
In the name of Demacia.
If you actually upset him or something really bothers him, but he can get really loud as well.
Nice!
Rallis, he's been around for a long time actually. He knows how to play the map, and I think that's one of his
A
strengths.
quadra kill for Rallis.
We were kind of leftovers, but we're still good players, so it feels really great to just prove the whole community wrong.
Hello and welcome to the European League Championship Series. We're coming to you live from our studio in Berlin, Germany, where the stakes are high as teams start to pull ahead in the spring split. You are getting a look at our studio where the fans are ready to go. And there are some fans for a certain someone, the local hero, Steve, with his people and their origin. They had an AMA for the crowd here in the studio before their games today, and of course meeting the fans, taking some pictures, shaking some hands, and there the empty championship plaque that all the teams are fighting for, but we're not there yet. Hello everybody, I'm Eve, your Shock supporter, joined on the analyst desk by James Stress O'Leary and Mitch Kreppel-Voorspools as we kick off week 3 of the 2016 season. We are ready to go here, and with 20 games on the book so far this spring, 5 teams are tied at the top of the standings at 3-1. In terms of the expected teams at the top of the table, H2K, Vitality, yes. Gamers too, G2 Esports rather, and Elements, big surprises.
Yeah, big surprises coming out there. As you said, 5 teams there, alphabetically sorted, but Elements will be at the top of the table. They've been doing a good job so far. I'm excited to see where they can go from here as we continue with the games in the spring split.
I love that they're winning games and that they're really excited and how they're like proving everybody wrong, but hang on guys, hold your horses. They've played against some of the weaker teams so far and they have a very rough schedule coming up, so let's revisit that statement maybe 3 or 4 weeks from now, but still a surprise to see them at 3-1. Honestly, would have expected them lower, but I wouldn't get too excited just yet.
Good advice there from Kreppo. A win is a win in the end, and some teams are still left looking for some more wins at the bottom of the tables. Giants and Origin at 1-3. That is very unexpected for most of us.
And the most unexpected thing was Origin. We gave them the benefit of the doubt in week 1. And week 2, we didn't really see the massive improvement we were expecting from Origin overall. They still need to pick things up. Communication issues was the big problem for week 2, and if they can fix those, maybe we can see them getting back. But now we're starting to eye up kind of that 3rd, 4th, and lower in the table for Origin as we go through the weeks.
Yeah, especially coming into the season, we were like, yeah, Origin, #1 team. Why? Because they have a good existing framework, and they have a really strong player in Power of Evil. Well, it's both falling apart. Power of Evil is making individual mistakes, not flashing when he gets kicked, for example, and the team itself is making big communication errors.
We'll see what happens if they can fix those. And heading into week 3, it is important to note that due to a bug we saw last week as Vitality faced Origin, Kindred has been disabled.
So yeah, here we see the bug, all the damage instances coming together in a small time frame. Suddenly Shook disappears. But Shook from Vitality had the following to say after the game. He said, "I did not know it was a bug at the time. I died. I didn't even consider pausing. Just thought I screwed up. But I am Shook, and I rarely screw up."
I think there was a bit of censorship going on in that tweet, but a nice statement from him overall.
Yeah, but what it leaves us with is Kindred being disabled for the weeks of play on 6.1 at least. Kindred had an 80% pick ban rate. Only 4 games was not seen in any kind of instance, whether it was jungle, AD, or banned. So now, much like when Gragas was banned at Worlds, teams have had to adapt to that. Jungle Pool just got 1 champion smaller.
Will definitely have his influence on the games today, and unfortunately, due to visa issues, Diamond, Edward, and Ryu will not be playing this week and will be replaced by substitutes. We're working with the teams, but it's uncertain at this point when these players will be able to return to the league. Just to go over all of them, the Unicorns of Love, Diamond is out, and Millennium's Joko is stepping in. For Roccat, Edward is out, and Extinct is stepping in. And then the former Super Hot Crew and MYM mid laner Selfie will be subbing in for Ryu for H2K.
That's not the only change with lineups. Those three were all to do with visas, but there has been one change that's been determined by the team of Giants, and that is that their jungler Ku is out. They announced yesterday that Betong Yoke, the former substitute for H2K's jungle position, has come into their lineup, and we'll get to see him start today.
Exactly, because Giants is playing in the very first game of the day and also be looking for their very first win against Splyce. Then later on, the Unicorns of Love will face Elements, and it's followed by H2K versus Vitality.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, H2K versus Vitality, right? A lot of people were looking forward to this matchup. Obviously, the departure or lack of Rio will influence this matchup, but I still think there's a lot of good things to watch out for, though. If you look in the top lanes, you have Cabochard and Odoamne facing off. Two of the top three top laners, in my opinion, in Europe here. The bot lanes, you have Van Forgiven versus Kasing and Kjartan. That alone is enough explosion. We'll need to see how much Rio's departure has influenced the macro game of H2K, but Vitality by no means thinks this is an easy grab because a couple of the members already went on Twitter and says, yeah, maybe they're weaker, but we still have a whole big task ahead of us. Should just be an exciting match overall.
Super exciting matchup, I agree. And as this season trends continue to develop, we want to get your take. Tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag EU LCS and tell us what element of macro strategy do you think is most important in 2016 so far and why. And we'll check in with your answers later today.
Yeah, for me personally, aside obviously from how you do Crux properly, I will look a lot at vision. I really think it's exciting that we now have a lot more limited vision and choice is being rewarded. Whereas in the past, certain vision meta games, you just had, well, I have 10 wards. If I place 8 of them accidentally correctly, the other 2 don't really matter. Right now, it's really important. Vision denial, the amount of pink wards being bought by some of the teams, we'll get into that later in the show, but there are supports like Kasing who buy like 14 pink wards, and then you have supports like Miffy all the way at the bottom with significantly less amount of gold spent on those pink wards, and you can see the influence of that vision.
We'll see today as well. And now for a look at some of the pre-game decision-making in 2016, we're going to check in with Richard Pulse Cam.
Thank you, Shucks. We wanted to focus in on the champions, masteries, and runes the AD carries are running, why they're running, and also how you can use them at home too. First of all, we're going to take a look at the AD carries that are currently being picked right now, as well as their pick rate. So at the very top, Corki looking very strong. Just underneath is Lucian, who did fall off in week 2, while Kalista surged in the same week and is currently 9-1 in the EU LCS, only 1 loss so far. But before we carry on, we need to split the AD carries into 2 groups. One with spellcasters who deal the magic damage, and the other group which will be the auto-attack focused AD carries who use the auto-attacks to deal damage. First off, we're going to look at Thunderlords. So, quick reminder, Thunderlords, 3 auto-attacks or spells activates that extra damage. Now, in the tree, we're going to take a look at some of the decisions that you can go for as you go down to that mastery. First up, Feast versus Double-Edged Sword. If you're a scrub like me, you probably went for Double-Edged Sword for the extra damage, but if you take a look at Feast, pretty much all of the pros go for this one, 100%, and it gives you that more sustain in lane. Then further down, you take a look at Oppressor versus Bounty Hunter. More people actually opting towards Oppressor because it's more easy to access the damage from your support CCing them rather than killing everyone on the map. Then you take a look also in Cunning, where you have the Biscuits versus Assassin, because while you may feel like you're 1 versus 3 in lane, in solo queue, you're actually not, so you don't benefit from that mastery. We now want to move on to Fervor, which, as again, a quick recap, auto attacks and spells build up this one, and with those stacks, you deal more damage on hit. Specifically, Lucian benefits a lot from this, since his passive also applies on hit effects and has those spells to build up those stacks. Pretty much everything is the same when you take a look at the decisions you make, but the main difference is Emperor, who actually goes for 12 in Resolve. And while the sustain is very similar from what you get in all of these masteries, the main difference is Insight, which is the 15% CDR on summoner spells, which in real time is 45 seconds off flash and 36 seconds off heal. So it just messes with your opponent when they're trying to figure out your summoner spell timings. Finally, we're going to move on to the rune page, which is pretty similar when you look up and down it, with the attack speed quints, flat AD reds, flat armor yellows, and then 5 flat MR blues with 4 flat attack speed blues. So most AD carries are going for this one. The only outlier, or one of the only outliers, is Forgiven, who goes 9 attack speed blues and no MR. And this does not work unless you're Forgiven. I've tried it. I did it in solo queue. I just died a lot to their support because you have no MR. And I just wouldn't recommend it. But if you're Forgiven, it's fine because you don't die. Emperor, however, does go for mana regen in his glyphs, which doesn't really make sense. He specifically does it on Kalista, and it gives you an extra pierce every 3 minutes or so. So again, not super impactful. It could be mind games because he does the same thing with his masteries. We just don't know. You may be asking, Why go attack speed over flat AD? Well, specifically because if you both go for an auto attack trade at the same time and then you land your first auto attack, you can land a second one before your opponent does, back off, and you've won the trade. So that's why you run attack speed over AD. In summary, caster carries go for Thunderlords and auto attack carries go for Fervor of Battle. And whatever you do, take those attack speed quintessences. So as we go and look at our first match of the day, Godfred tells us what he thinks about the Giants' start to the season.
I feel like we do some great things in the game and we do some really bad things. Like we're not respecting when we're supposed to back. We're overextending sometimes, getting caught out of place. It's easy to know what you did wrong in laning phase. And there are so many more options after laning phase that you can do, you know. The map is open, you have many possibilities, but we don't use these good options as we get punished by the bad ones, you know.
Thank you very much, Pulse. I'm not going to make as many mistakes with my runes and masteries, and hopefully Godfrey and the rest of the Giants won't make as many mistakes in the laning phase. I'm Quickshot, he's Deficio, and we're going to get into this game right now, taking a look at the teams on stage. First up, on the blue side, it is Gigantic Giants with Atom in the top lane, Betong Yoka replacing Ku in the jungle, Xpepi in the mid lane, Arju the AD carry, Godfrey the support, and Lothar the coach. I also think Xpepi sporting a new haircut or lack thereof.
Sure, Betong Yoka as well.
Maybe it'll turn the team's tide around. They're currently 0-4. A team that has the second worst leads at 10 minutes that grows to 20 minutes. They're behind. They're making bad calls, and Godfrey said it himself.
I mean, there's so many problems for Giants. Now, we heard also there have been some issues maybe off the scene, you know, outside of the game, inside the game. Now we see a lot of issues. They're not getting towers, not getting dragons. They've gotten 0 barons so far because, again, they fall behind in the mid game. Honestly, we need to see more from Giants. I also want to see more from Pepi in the mid lane. I know it's very tough to say that like we want to target specifically him, but he was the big carry last year when Giants were struggling as well. It's not really been the same situation, but it's very tough. I mean, you're very alone in the mid lane if you are Xpepi, and I mean, he's trying. It's just not been enough.
And the thing is, even last year when his team was struggling, Pepi still looked like he was a threat, was impactful. I'm not feeling it quite as much this year. Maybe he'll have a slightly easier time up against Splyce, another team that is currently struggling. They're on the red side of the rift for this matchup. Wonderwear is in the top lane, Trashy in the jungle, Senkux mid, Kobby the AD carry, Nisbet the support, with the potato cannon himself, the coach.
Sporting a turtleneck.
Now they did, we debated whether or not that's still cool.
Apparently it was only cool in the 60s.
All right, that's what we've learned. But a little more serious, 1 and 3. I think important to note, Splyce did pick up a win last week against Roccat, starting to maybe turn the tide a little bit. And very importantly, Senkux also stepped up in that game, something that we'd not seen in the 3 previous matches.
Well, again, for him, it's very tough coming into the LCS because there are a few things he has going for him in terms of just his name, the fact he's Danish, he's an EU mid laner as well. So like, it's very difficult to come in and live up to the hype. Now we're seeing more of it, but it was 1 game. So I still think Splyce had a lot of issues in the early game against Roccat. And it was more because Roccat didn't do anything, honestly, in the mid game, that Splyce managed to come back and pick up some kills. Anyhow, you know what, Trevor? This is the first game Splyce is on red side. They've had 4 games on blue side so far. They've been banning Trundle in every single one of them. And in last week's games, they would then first pick Tahm Kench. So obviously makes a lot of sense. You ban Trundle, who takes away your tank stat, you first pick Tahm Kench. That should not be an option for Splyce here. However, Giants hasn't first picked Tahm Kench yet. They've been like all over the place. Like first picking Braum, and then first pick Jungle, and then first pick some other different things. So I wonder if Splyce will keep the Tahm Kench open and try and force, or will hope the Giants doesn't pick it and then take it for Wonderwear, because it's been like his go-to pick.
Well, it's going to be a tough question. We are on 6.1 for everybody at home, and as mentioned earlier, Kindred is disabled, so that's one of those champions that's seen a number of times on the bench, banned out. And of course, Betong Yoka is now coming in for Giants, so new jungler. We see Elise being taken off the table as the final ban from Giants to round out the Poppy and Kalista, and the Tahm is no longer there either. So
Ryze,
Trundle's still up.
Trundle, Ryze, I don't think Trundle first pick. I'm looking more maybe at a Graves as a first pick, because now that we have Kindred being removed from a jungle pool, she was obviously one of the top picks to often be banned or picked very early. It always changes things around a little bit, because suddenly Elise gets even more value, Graves gets even more value. Completely missed the fact that Lulu was open, which, funny enough, here's another fact. Giants has never played Lulu this season.
No.
They banned it every game.
Correct.
And honestly, I wonder who's going to play it. Because I don't think it's a Peppy champion at all. I think he needs to be on something that can carry. And Adam has been playing mainly tanks up in top lane. He's actually been honestly fairly weak when it comes to landing skill shots on specific champions. Like Shen with his taunt. So I think Splyce are fine giving over Lulu to Giants and saying, you know what, this doesn't even benefit you.
We'll see if Peppy can find some synergy with the rest of his team with that Lulu pick. Going to be a bit difficult for Giants to deal with the wave clear and the poke that's already been put in place with that Corki Graves. And flex picks, once more. We've been saying it so much on 6.1.
Can we please see Corki mid in Europe soon? It is such a good pick, but every team picks Corki, then puts it as AD carry. I just want to see Corki mid, especially also together with the likes of Graves. I mean, that siege is so good. Once you hit level 11 on Corki, you have Trinity Force, you have Magic Penetration Boots, rank 2 ulti. You are so hard to deal with, especially if the other team doesn't have proper hard engage. This case here, there's an Alistar, you can speed him up with Lulu, and like, the engage is okay. I think you can definitely play around it though if you are Splyce. You can still go for the likes of Morgana or Janna if you want a disengaging support against the Alistar engage.
So it looks to be the case for now. Giants still holding their cards to the chest, not revealing which lane that Lulu is going into. And we'll leave their final draft to answer that question. On the side of Splyce, picks and bans has been something of a question for the team over the last few games. It seemed to get better in week 2, and so far, if this Morgana gets locked in, and it will shortly, it's a good answer to the Headbutt, Pulverize, Engage, and Wonderwear on a split-pushing champion like Fiora is solid. But now we need to see how well Trashy can help him out in the early stages.
And obviously, again, you wanna save your Corki as a potential mid lane pick, so you take top lane here and you kind of show Graves is going to the jungle, but that's perfectly fine. For Splyce, Fiora is still honestly a very safe top lane pick. Very few things can completely shut her down in lane, and even if that should happen, Graves can come in and assist her fairly effectively. So I like what Splyce is doing. I think they have a very strong comp. We talked about the disengaged support against what tends to be a bit of, lack of hard engage when it's just an Alistar, or if it's a Lee Sin kicking someone back. So Splyce so far building a very good siege comp and basically a 1-4 setup at the moment.
Well, you'll definitely have to break down that 1-4 and how it works
maybe
in-game for me.
Maybe soon.
But for Giants, they're severely lacking damage for the time being. The question of where Lulu will go is answered. It will be in Atom's hands up top. Peppy's going to be on that Ahri for the second time this split. And of course, Adri on the Lucian. So fairly well-rounded comp, good pick potential if they catch somebody out.
You open up for LeBlanc counterpick here. I know it's kind of cheating because he's already hovering it, but it's something we talk about very often, how LeBlanc in the early game can really dictate the lane phase against Ahri. Pre-level 6, you can decide all the fights with distortion. You can be a lot more aggressive. So Splyce has the option now to just put Corki AD carry and say, okay, give a Senkox a good matchup. Good matchup.
Well, hopefully Senkox can max up his power.
Maybe.
Last week he finally showed up in the 4th game on stage. There was actually a lot of hype around Senkox and Kobe coming into the LCS and how they perform. But to Fisher, if that LeBlanc is locked in, it means you're not getting your Corki mid. Can you live with it?
I can. Also because Kalista is banned. I can accept that Kalista Corki are the 2 main AD carry picks at the moment. So with the bans coming in, with the chance of a good matchup in mid lane, I accept Corki going down as an AD carry. But it just shows again how good this flex picking AD carry is, because you can save it into the very end. Giants, very mixed setup they're running here. Because we have seen Lulu Lucian quite a bit over in LCK. We know SKT likes to run it, Bang can go crazy in the late game. But you really gotta go full late game then. You have 4 or 5 items on Lucian before he becomes that hyper carry late, with a Lulu buffing him, that is. And then you have Ahri, who wants to pick off targets. The problem is, I'm not sure Giants will be allowed to. Because who's going to stop Fiora in the side lane? Who's going to stop LeBlanc in the side lane? So Giants will be forced to group very early and avoid this 1-3-1 happening from Splyce. Otherwise, I feel like their comp will fall apart.
So in theory, Splyce will have more options to knock over Giants' Nexus. And we'll see if they can get into a position where they can split push, because, so Fisher, you've been talking about that map play so much this week. And if Giants can get in before Splyce can set up, maybe that's their way into this game.
It's how you deal with split pushing, right? You strike before it gets to set up. You strike before it's pushing down to your towers already.
Well, let's find some perfect examples this game. If you guys at home think the Giants are going to pick up a win, hashtag GIA win. Or if you think Splyce will make it number 2 on the split, hashtag SPY win. That is the snake of Splyce in the old Danish roster. One that Deficio has got a lot of faith into, but we're loading up onto the Rift for the first game of week 3.
It's a little bit too easy for me to have a lot of faith in Splyce. However,
it's a big however at the moment.
Yeah, we haven't seen, honestly, enough from this lineup. G2 and Splyce came in from the EU Challenger scene. Splyce only made 1 roster change. Obviously, G2 got 2 new players. But honestly, G2 has been stealing the show. They've just been looking a lot better than Splyce. Splyce have lost some pretty bad games, honestly, where they make a lot of mistakes, especially in the early to mid game.
The game especially. But that's true of Giants too.
Sure.
Now for Giants, substitute as well, Betong Yoka, guy that has been around, is a name that you'll recognize if you've watched some of the challenger scene. Or
H2K last year.
H2K played a couple of games,
in the playoffs,
Came in to help spur up Lulex's performance. But now for Betong Yoka on Lee Sin, a champion that we were actually just discussing before the game started, how if he's in your kit, if you can play Lee Sin effectively, you've got this additional threat from a jungler that really is always relevant.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of the European junglers are very good Lee Sin players, because again, mechanics is such a big thing in European solo queue. So they really start mastering things like Lee Sin, supports get Thresh, and I think we talked about it last week as well. But the fact that Lee Sin is not like the top pick, Elise is better, Kindred if she's enabled, Graves people would probably pick over Lee Sin. It still means that you can pick something else in the early rotation and then still fall back on Lee Sin as like your backup pick, and it can have a lot of impact if your jungler is very good at playing it, and also if he's good at playing it on stage.
Yeah.
Because there's a very big difference between solo queue and scrims, where you can go aggressive and you can technically lose the game by making a crazy insect, and it's okay because it's just practice. On stage, a lot of the players tend to then be a lot more careful, they're sitting back, they don't want to go for these crazy plays. With Betong Yoka, first game for Giants, he has to be able to make the crazy plays.
Yeah, especially against the split pushing threat that Splyce will be able to put in to play later in the game. Now let's talk about this lane swap. Splyce were the ones that initiated it. We did see Trashing Wonderwear starting off in the top quadrant of the map, and Nisbet and Cobby, they actually scared away Atom on that Lulu. So this is going to be the 4v0 that Splyce have initiated.
Yeah, we see this more and more. Very different reasons often teams decide to lane swap. One of the reasons you can do it is if you want to split push, if you like long lanes, which you do if you have a Fiora on your team, if you have a LeBlanc, very mobile champions, you can lane swap and fast push down these towers so that the top tower and the bot lane tower, they die very quickly in the game, and then suddenly you have these really long side lanes where you can catch farm, you can chase people down, you can kind of punish them for lacking the mobility that you do have. So I like that from Splyce. Also, you can dodge around a range lane into Fiora, not that it's terrible for Fiora to play into Lulu. But now at least you just remove that part where Lulu could be a bit of a bully and say, that's not going to happen.
Well, you mentioned how Senkak's
Ganking
early
mid
lane
might
pressure,
happen.
and the chains have connected. Peppy cannot break the tether. First blood secured for Senkak.
We see this so often. Like, people take Ahri as a safe pick, and then counter pick come in as LeBlanc, and early on, again, it is difficult. If you do not time the charm with the distortion, things like these can happen, and we have a jungler like Graves with so much burst damage early on. Easy kill. An easy first blood for Splyce.
Easy peasy pudding and pie. So good start here for Splyce. Picking up first blood. I think only the second time, that's correct, of their 5 games.
You see keystones here, Trevor. More and more Alistar players taking Windspeaker's Blessing after it got changed, and it gives armor and MR now when you heal. So obviously when you heal your entire team late game,
value is great.
It is great. It also signals how Giants want to group together. So you're gonna get that heal, you're gonna get a lot of value from it. Godfred obviously won't be able to benefit too much in the early game. Also tend to fall really far behind in experience in these lane swaps. Poor supports.
Supports always get the worst end of the deal. There is some love again for Senkax in this middle lane. He's already picked up a blasting wand. So, as if he didn't have enough tools in his kit to work with. This is just going to help at that lane, but somewhat risky invade. Trashy's alone.
Well, he had Nisbet just before, and then Nisbet backs away when Trashy wants to go deeper into the jungle.
So Smokescreen comes out. There's no real chase threat here. Godfred, only level 2, had not opted to go for any sort of aggressive play onto Trashy. And as it stands, Splyce are now getting closer and closer to the second tower of the game. Oh, good damage on the Peppy.
Right, so Giants has valued getting more solo experience for Atri and Illusion over trying to deny Wonderwear on Fiora. Because otherwise you would have just swapped Godfred, Betongyok, Godfred and Adam, and of course Atri to the top side and push in that tower 3v1 and force Fiora away. But they're now basically allowing Wonderwear to get solo experience and farm because he gets a 1v1 lane where there's no experience difference because it was so early on they swapped. And this is something I really do not like. Because you know that the enemy team is going to rely on Fiora scaling up and becoming a split pusher. You're now setting your own top laner behind the person who's supposed to basically stay even with Fiora for as long as possible because you have to teleport on Lulu.
Oh, wow. Adri managing to almost take him out. So, had that kill gone the way of Adri, would you have preferred the swap?
No, I mean, it was still a bad swap, but it would then suddenly look better for Giants.
Okay.
Now that they didn't get the kill, teleport is going to be used. You see a difference in CS. Experience at the moment, Wonderwear just hits level 5, and Adam has just hit level 4.
Okay, so full level ahead.
So you're basically just setting Adam really far behind, and this is going to mean for Giants that this split pushing threat is just going to happen even sooner. Because if you go over to level 6 or 7 Lulu and you can handle a level 8 or 9 Fiora, well, already there, the 1-3-1 is going to start.
I'm excited to see how well Splyce can handle themselves in a split push, because for Wonderwear, he's played champions that like to be in team fights predominantly. The Tom Kent to Lysandra the Rise. Now he's playing Fiora, who can do well in team fights, but it's a whole different kettle of fish when you're pushing a side lane, when you're pushing the map, choosing when to teleport correctly. So
yeah,
for Splyce, a different flavor from their top lane.
And playing Fiora in teamfights into Alistar, Lulu, it's not really going to be a whole lot of fun for you. Even Lucian is going to be fairly mobile. So definitely we're going to see Splyce rely on Wonderwear in the side lanes, and he's basically been gifted a massive advantage in the early game. This wave is going to be pushed out. Notice how trashy on your minimap. It's just going to shadow him. Just make sure, okay, I'm nearby in case anything happens. Push in the wave, recall, let it bounce back towards you, and you can just maximize your farm if you are a Splyce at this point. Giants' only play, really, is to make an aggressive move on bottom side with teleport advantage. But then again, Splyce should know this, because it's obviously very, very obvious. Okay, we have no TP, they have. Just play safe on the bottom side, don't force any fights, and this TP will matter, or will not matter at all.
So luckily for Splyce, Kobby and Nisbet both got their flash. Both very capable of playing defensively, and Trashy's still holding Wonderwear's hand somewhat, as this wave is going to get shoved straight into the tower. Atsum going to have quite a lot of time to farm that up, but he's down half the CS, and Splyce still over 1,000 gold ahead.
And now if you are Splyce, you play this game where you say, okay, we've just been on top side of the map and we didn't see the enemy jungler. So we can basically remove that entire part of the map and say, okay, he wasn't here. There's no reason for him to be top. Well, there's only one place he can be.
Yeah. And
that's the bottom side. So Splyce's bottom lane just said, you know, we're not going to push out. We're just going to let the wave slowly push towards us because we know the enemy jungler is nearby. He has to be. There's no other place for him to be. So just very smart use of the information. Even though you don't see a player, just by eliminating the places he can be, you can get a lot of information as a team. And just very standard when you are pushing out as an early game player.
Charm.
That was a beautiful charm, yeah.
Maybe completely predicting the trade. I mean, to be fair, Senkak spelled out exactly what he was going to do. But very good timing from Peppy. Despite being down, despite giving up that first blood from the Trashy gank much earlier on.
Same thing going on for Splyce. Trashy on top side, where they have a stronger Fiora than the Lulu. But now, obviously, you should expect the enemy jungler. He can come in and start contesting the blue buff. And Splyce has to be very careful because they have two guys on the bottom side. They don't want to fight this one. They should just back away here.
So, Giants a little bit overextended. Atsum is going to get jumped on here. I wonder where he's got the dash. I think Senkaks may have face planted, does not connect with the chains, and wonder where he's going to go down.
Really?
Very easy kill. Splyce stepping too far forward.
Bottom lane is missing from Giants. You see them even start moving aggressive towards you when you start the blue buff, so you know they are ready to fight. Otherwise, they would never move close to that blue buff in the first place. And then Wonderwear goes aggressive. Really, really poor play by Splyce. They've done everything correct leading up to this point.
And the man that they were shutting down, Atom, was the one that got the kill. They're going to get a tower as well. And just like that, Giants actually are going to jump in the lead. Now, Pepe may go down. Spirit Rush charge 1 goes out. Second chain connects, second rush, and Flash gets Pepe to safety. He's got teammates to cover him in this top lane, but Senkax is landing all of the skill shots he needs to.
Still, the last 40 seconds were very good for Giants. Pick up a kill, rush up to top tower. Adam could TP down bottom lane and catch the big wave, so he's now catching up in experience as well. I'm just going to look at him. Currently, he's sitting halfway through level 7. And Wonderware, 30%. So, suddenly, Adam with a kill, TP bot lane, catch 2 or 3 waves. He's now ahead of Wonderware. This is how you can take a great early game advantage. And you can look at the window, you can open the window, and then you take it and you throw it out the window.
Well, evens up the game so far for Giants and Splyce. And you talk about those mistakes, throwing leads away, or throwing opportunities away. And actually, Giants and Splyce are the 2 teams in the league that fall further behind between 10 and 20 minutes than anybody else. So on average, both teams are down at 10 minutes. And they both continue to fall further behind, between 12 and 1,400 gold behind the next 10 minutes. So let's see who can either make less mistakes or punish their opponents more. Because, there's always 2 sides to a story, right?
Sure.
You make a mistake your opponent takes advantage of, or your opponent outplays you.
Yeah, if you force the mistake, it's obviously well played by you. As you just talked about here, though, Giants, the first time they're hitting gold for 10 minutes. Yeah. So, better for them early on, but as Godfred talked about in the feature coming in, it's often not really in the laning phase Giants are losing the games. It's once we get to that mid game and they start making some poor decisions as a team. Now, obviously, Splyce has been doing the same in the last few games we've been watching. So I just want to see which team has improved the most in practice this week. Because again, there's so many VODs you can look at now. There's so many small mistakes you can look at and say, okay, here and here and here we made some mistakes. How do we fix it? And hopefully that both teams have been able to do it. Even though we have seen now a mistaken lane swap from Giants, and then a follow-up mistake from Splyce, kind of throwing away that advantage they gained from that lane swap.
Oh, another good charm from Pepe. Lands both ticks of that Orb of Deception, and Senkax is chunked down. He's got that Abyssal Scepter completed, still a very healthy 18 CS lead. Even bigger for Kobbe over Audrey, but look at this middle lane. Trashy and Nisbet and Kobbe are coming around. There's no flash on Pepe, and he's going to get caught out. The chain is going to connect again. Pepe survives this time round. The heals from Godfred helping out. And for Giants, they now need to defend, but Pepe's had to use his ultimate defensively almost every single time.
Yeah, we see the same kind of move though from Splyce. Push in one lane and then start roaming into the enemy jungle and appear in the mid lane to annoy Pepe as much as possible. Early Abyssal, of course, for the LeBlanc in mid lane is one of the best items you can get right now, especially in these very explosive matchups.
Yeah.
Makes such a big difference when you have it fully completed. So I like that fact, that way Splyce has played around mid lane in the early game, but it's often been built around the fact that you can win your side lane and then move into this mid lane.
Well, Splyce seem to have gotten off to a good start in those side lanes. Got Wonderware and Kobbe looking healthy.
Except for that one.
Except for the one misplay.
Mistake.
Yeah, evened it out, of course. But for the time being, it's still Splyce being very proactive. They started the lane swap. They got the first blood. Trashy's significantly more impactful thus far than Betsongyaka, and Betsongyaka is not even that far ahead on CS either. On a champion like Lee Sin that can have such a huge impact.
Sure, I mean, Lee Sin is one of these champions where even if you're 0-0-0, like 15 minutes in, you have one crazy insec and you win the entire game for your team.
Will Wild Growth save Atom? I think we're about to find the answer to that question, and the Nick comes out, Atom's still holding it. Senkax will get the chain down, and Wild Growth didn't even come out. May not have saved his life, but Senkax, another good kill.
He could survive the first combo.
Could have survived. I
But
still think he would have got away.
He would have died no matter what. Anyway, he had
he
no
would have got away.
He had no flash. He would have gone down. He has it
next level thing. Oh, another good charm. Onto Kobbe. Pepe is finding the targets.
So, the fact that Adam goes down here is really, really bad for Giants because it removes any possible chance for Giants to force a play on Splyce before the 1-3-1 gets set up. This is something we talked about earlier, in Champ Select. You can see how LeBlanc is pushing down top side. Corki is sitting mid lane now. you want to have your jungle and support constantly roaming into the enemy jungle here. Because you're pushing at least 2 lanes, you're winning those 2 lanes. So you can always push them down to enemy tower, force the enemy to just sit there and wave clear. Nothing else, so they cannot move first. And then you go into the jungle, you put up your wards, you buy more pink wards than Splyce has at the moment, and you start moving them. You see there are 2 pink wards in the river, move them slowly forward into the entrance of the enemy jungle. The next step is you move them towards the enemy blue buff, enemy wolf camp, and therefore you just deny all the vision. That's gonna be the next 10 minutes for Splyce, basically. Small steps every time, pushing up lanes.
This is gonna hurt. Sorry, Deficio. Bets on
He's done so.
Wow! So, Senkux 3-0. He's controlling this top lane completely, continuing to shove it in. Now let's see if Splyce can do step 2 of the split push strategy and push those wards.
It becomes a lot easier when you constantly kill someone.
Oh yes.
By the time you're setting up the 1-3-1, because technically right now Wonderwear wants to push his bot lane. But because they're always killing someone, it doesn't matter. Because if he didn't care to kill here, Giants could just make a play on the bottom side. Adam can just join in with teleport and let this wave push into tower. And you can be the proactive one if you are Giants and set it up. I want to see Wonderwear push it out once he can. He has Tiamat now. Get Titanic Hydra for more wave clear early on. Ignore the fact you don't get the same amount of damage. Oh, he doesn't have it yet. Poor guy.
Boots first for the Swifties. Along with Trashy on that grave. Splyce still hold on to their lead. Cobby still sending the minions in one by one in this middle lane. And we're going to see these guys starting to back, spending some additional money. So Spooky Ghost available for Senkux now. To allow him to chase down even more if he's pushing those side lanes.
Vila is just a weird move from the Tongyaki.
Yeah.
You have an enemy LeBlanc who's constantly pushing your top lane. You just walk into the drum all alone. And he just walks in behind you and kills you. Like, that's a very solo queue move. Something we don't normally see.
Well, Tongyaki did just come from solo queue.
Sure.
First game on stage this year, despite competitive experience from last year.
Yeah, and what Giants wants to do now is not try to match Splyce in the side lanes. Instead, they want to play around mid lane. You want to actually have 4 members in mid and then Adam sitting and holding Fiora before Splyce gets to push down. But again, they're delaying it. They're trying to put Peppy to go even with LeBlanc at the moment. But that's not a fight he's going to win. This is a 3-0 LeBlanc. Like, she's obviously very strong at this point. Go 4-man mid once Splyce is recalling and just push up on that tower. Force them to group together, and it's a lot easier to deal with a 3-0 LeBlanc. If you just let her 1v1 you, it's going to be nearly impossible.
For Giants, and take a step back and we look at this team comp, they're still slowly falling behind and still playing to Splyce's beat. But Audrey, he's farming himself quietly into a position where he can be impactful. Got that Essence Reaver app, Zeal completed. We'll expect that rapid fire cannon soon. And actually, interestingly, on Giants, he's got the highest damage percentage on the team. Primarily because Atom and Peppy have not had the greatest of games over weeks 1 and 2. And that is interesting for Audrey, who's a guy who took a lot of criticism last year. I will return to that in a second as Atom's the next target. Wild Growth available. He manages to channel it this time. The Ignite is ticking flash for flash. Senkux gets the kill. Passive procced under the tower, but that's the 4th kill of the game.
It is so key that if you do flash anything against LeBlanc early to mid-game, it is the distortion. That is such a big part of the damage. Early on, you obviously can't really dodge around the Q at all.
Oh!
Splyce again now, they keep getting a kill. And instantly you see the team start moving into the enemy jungle. Like, okay, we get a kill bot side. Nobody's there to defend. Move into enemy jungle on that side. Put in a few wards, then back away.
But look how clever this is from Giants. They pushed Splyce's 3-man team away from the river.
The mid lane.
And this allows Giants' 4-man stack mid to push the tower. Peppy's waiting in the wings. Charm will get lunged away from by Wonderway, and the tower is secured. So, clever positioning from Giants, and they actually turn it back around on Splyce, but it's still not enough to even out the goal.
The way you play against split push is that you control mid lane. If you're stronger in the mid lane and you can push it up to the enemy tower, you force the split push to back away from side lanes and run in towards the mid lane and join into a team fight to defend. So Splyce were a little bit too greedy. Moving forward, they took a lot of damage getting into the enemy jungle, allowing Giants to just push up, and Peppy left the top side. He walked into mid as well, forcing Splyce back, and suddenly you gain something. You need to control mid lane because you also stop the enemy then from warding your jungle.
Well, Giants seem to have realized that. They pushed Splyce again, all the way back out of their own jungle. Ooh, big chunk onto Pepe as the rest of Giants now group up towards this bottom lane. It looks like Atom is shoving at least the minion wave forward, but the vision game to Fisher that you wanted to see out of Splyce has actually been started by Giants. They've grouped up and they forced Splyce's hand. Look at the wards in the jungle here from Splyce, placed by Giants.
It's super weird to say, but it's almost hurting Splyce that they have such a fed mid laner who can just pick up these easy kills, because Wonderwear never gets to do anything in his side lane. He's sitting so far back, Senkox will pick up a kill, and Wonderwear is like, oh, okay, should I start pushing now? And it's like way too late. And Giants are saying, okay, finally realizing, if we just go 4-man mid and push it up mid lane, obviously they can't defend because there's no TP on the LeBlanc, so she's stuck in the side lane. Wonderwear is pushed down to his tower, so Adam is sitting there with him. And then suddenly you can gain something. I just want to see Splyce, you know, chill out a little bit. Have every single lane pushing at the same time. Hold hands. You know, move forward holding hands. And you just push Giants further and further down towards their own base.
Somewhat seeing that. Senkuk says he'll hold Wonderwear's hand.
Because now he should be sitting top lane against the Ahri, so he can push into that wave. Because otherwise you can see Giants can just walk down now to the tier 2 tower and clear it out. Yeah. And Splyce's like, oh, okay. I guess this is your farm. It's not my farm anymore. And then you just step away. And it slows down the game for Splyce, which is not what they're looking for at this point.
Well, time is something that you said Giants were looking for. If Lulu, Lucian can get themselves in the mid to late game, get themselves 2-3 items, the Lulu empowered Lucian, the autos and the speed can be terrifying. Pepe wants to throw out a taste of the medicine he's been feeling. There's some support coming from Batong Yaka. Wonderwear does have Flash available. Charm hasn't been fired, Flash already used. And Pepe actually held on to that for quite a long time. Summer spell down.
Still need to see Splyce swap the lanes. LeBlanc want to be top, you want to have TP versus TP. Because Ahri does have pressure on Fiora. The other way around, LeBlanc can just kill the Ahri every time. They are moving down bot lane here though from Splyce, so they will get some damage on tower. Won't be able to take it down though.
Dark Binding finds Godfred, as does End of the Line. And they got about, what, 40-50% of their tower's hit points? Splyce is going to be happy with the damage, and maybe they'll push up middle. Pepe should be there in time to clear that wave out. And Splyce have actually put together 4 of those fast sight trinkets. And Trashy, he's been caught by a Pepinero charm, ex-Pepe rather. Spooky, chilly, frozen ghosts come out. Defensive flash from Trashy, and the culling will fly across, chunking him out but no kill. The rest of Splyce are continuing to push. Senkuk's down bottom, Wonderwear up top. We could be for a tower trade scenario.
Yeah, so now Giants again are trying to say, we just have to push in mid lane. The problem is, Splyce had time to set up side lane, so Wonderwear is finally able to push his lane. He's gonna get tower damage there. Splyce also gets a bot tower.
So it's 1 for 1. Cobby's gonna Valk away. Flashback from Nisbet. Giants, they've not stopped yet. Spirit Rush into the charm. Cobby gets caught. He's killed. Giants have found themselves another window of opportunity. But Song Yaka goes forward as Audrey as going to help out for the additional kill. Oh! Triple into quadra kill for Senkuks.
That took him about 1.5 seconds to kill 4 people. Meanwhile, Wonderwear got top tower.
Look at Pepe on the player cam.
Oh, it's just like the teams have so many small things happening. Like Splyce, the guys in mid lane, they just want to disengage, but they get caught out, they die. Giants chasing for some kills to get mid tower. You see it here, so like Copy's just supposed to sit really far back now and try and wave clear while his team is taking side lane towers, but he gets caught, he dies. Tower does enough damage to Giants though, and Trashy. And then, okay, let's watch. Distortion, ulti, oof. Every LeBlanc player's dream, right there.
What a fantastic performance. This is the guy we actually called out in the pregame, and we said, we've not really seen
we've seen one good game
stepping up, and you know, those 8 kills is the most kills he's gotten in an LCS game yet. That was his first quadra kill on stage. And when 2 teams that are struggling have come up against one another, Splyce individually and mechanically are showing they can outplay Giants. There's some misplays from a macro and a strategy point, but now they've got this gigantic wiggle room to make mistakes because of how far ahead Senkax is.
You just keep getting these very back and forth games where there are mistakes you feel like the other team could punish, but then they do something different and then it kind of runs out into nothing, and then suddenly the team who was supposed to not really gain anything will get a tower, will get a kill, and it kind of surprises you. Because both teams are having these very, very questionable overall calls, but then sometimes they get the right one and it looks really good. Until LeBlanc gets quarter kill in about a second.
Yeah, well, let's see. Is this number 9? Senkax wants to find Peppy, gonna hold off, still a level ahead. Oh, Peppy's so close to this wall. The double dash, chains don't connect this time round. Ignite is ticking, but I don't think it'll kill Peppy. So close! Oh. Almost there.
It's enough though to force you out of this lane here, and remember, 5 seconds from now, he can just do it again.
Single-digit HP for Peppy.
He's not even 16 yet. He's gonna get rank 3 ulti soon. That's a massive spike for him. Very low cooldown. Constantly can look for these trades. Like, Ahri cannot sit in the side lane against LeBlanc. That is suicide for Giants. Every time. I almost cried.
Because I heard your throat croaking.
I've just been drinking a lot of water already.
It's all that Danish pride. It's got you welling up. You can hear the frog in your throat.
It's like Bjergsen all over again.
I'm not touching that one. So, Senkax.
Is he going to be better than FLICKR?
I told you I'm not touching it, dude.
Tell me about it.
That is last year. So last year. But look at the item difference. Death Cap, Void Staff, Abyssal, and Ghosts. And Pepe's not even finished his hat yet.
Yeah, that hat. Crazy, crazy stuff. I'm not really sure where I'm going with the hat part.
It sounded good when you started, I'll be honest. But for Splyce, they've got themselves a 5k gold lead. They've proven that they can find the kills.
Well,
we're not
one
seeing...
player has proven he can find the kills.
He's putting himself in that position. But we're not seeing the deep vision just yet on those pink wards. You can see 1, 2, 3 wards inside Giants jungle from Splyce. But they're running out of inner turrets. So
yeah.
At what point do they start threatening Baron? At what point do they start trying to force Giants' hand?
I mean, at this point, you just set up your LeBlanc to get another kill, basically. If you ever get Giants split up, move him there, give him a solo kill, because he can just burst down whatever he wants to, and then you can go Baron, or you can push a tower. So there's a lot of plays Splyce can make at the moment.
Wow, Godfred! Forced to use the ultimate just to stay alive. Audrey's gonna dash away from the Dark Binding, and Splyce, they brute force their way into the last inner turrets.
It's interesting when we see trinkets, because a lot of teams, when they're getting very far ahead, they like to have yellow trinkets instead of blue trinkets. Or they also like to kill the enemy AD carry. 9-0. Did you start him in fantasy?
Nope.
Oh, Trevor, that's why you are?
What? You're just saying it like you've got him in fantasy. Liar.
If I had him, I would have started him.
Exactly. So Splyce get themselves a very, very easy kill into Audrey thanks to Senkax. And starting to set up
Shot calling becomes so fun.
So you were saying, oh, wow.
Like
there is so much damage, our observers can't even follow it.
Ah, that one rocket.
Now Splyce, they're going to start this Baron. So they're starting it off relatively early. Is that the Scuttle Crab in favor of Giants? So they are aware of the vision, if I'm looking at that correctly.
I believe it is Splyce.
Is it Splyce?
Yeah. Peppy's back in base now. But Tongyarka has to try and go in and steal this one. I mean, that's almost the only play he can make.
Well, Grand Challenge comes down. Wonderwear will get the kill onto Batongyaka. Gonna carry on chasing down onto Atom. The Baron has been stopped, but Splyce will be happy with that. They've started the fight again. Wonderwear is gonna eat almost an entire culling, and Senkax, he's forced to jump backwards with that distortion for a second time. They've got themselves 2 kills.
Hang on. Splyce got 2 kills. Not in the LeBlanc.
Are we celebrating this now?
Kill each.
Breaking the love around. For Splyce, 8,000 gold up. But they were thwarted on their Baron plans. So rinse and repeat. Go back to pushing these lanes, and we'll see another dance around this Baron.
Yeah, and this is actually where I like, again, the yellow trinkets, just to go back to that point like 3-4 minutes ago before they started to kill everyone. when you are ahead, having the yellow trinkets really makes it a lot easier to set up plays like Baron with the D boards coming in. Because obviously, again, the enemy team can just one-shot them and clear them and work further in. But also, I mean, you never really go wrong by having blue trinkets. It's just such a strong item. Is it an item, blue trinket? I guess it is. Like, are you nodding at me? Saying it.
It's just a trinket.
Is a trinket an item?
No, a trinket is its own thing. It's like its own classification.
Interesting.
Well, you have abilities, you have trinkets, you have
Really?
items. They have their own system.
Yeah. It's an item.
So, with Baron picked up on Splyce, disregard everything we've just said. You can now push this super Baron-empowered minions, rather, into the base even easier. There is some wave clear here from Giants on the side of that Lulu and the Lucian, but it's going to be very difficult to clear these out, especially with that banner of command, Baron-empowered Giant tank. There's no support here from the Giant side. Pepe's been caught by a Dark Binding. Teleport is available for Wonderway if he needs to use it, and Kabi uses his package defensively to get away. But Songyaka is going to be the target. Senkax gets booted away. Not going to find any other teammates to knock up like bowling pins. And the inhibitor's going to fall again. Giants are trying to find an opportunity, trying to find a way in, and it is simply not working.
It's just impossible at this point, Trevor. You're falling so far behind. Splyce can do whatever they want. Because every time you move close to this team, there's a risk of you just dying instantly, literally in a matter of seconds.
And that's exactly what Senkax wants to do to Atom. The chain will find its target, but Songyaka will not find a very good kickback because he didn't have it available. I need to look at that first before seeing him dash in. All 5 members of Splyce continuing to siege up onto the second inhibitor. It will drop shortly. Senkax, he dashes 90 degrees to the right and finds Audrey. One of the damage dealers from Giants is down for 45 seconds. And Splyce, they set their sights on the Nexus turret, decide maybe a little too risky. They all dash through the gate, and here comes Senkax again. Atom will get rooted, and Senkax will use that distortion out. But Songyaka follows forward before being burst down. It's a kill credit over to Kabi. Flashes over the wall. Splyce, they see a dead Nexus in their sights, and they're chasing Giants away. Wonderware is looking for the grand challenge, and he will find it. Picks up a kill onto Atom. The ace from Splyce. They destroy the turrets, and they finish off the base.
Standout performance. I think it's very easy to call the MVP here. It is Yamato Cannon.
No, look
wait,
at
it's
that.
not.
Ecstatic smiles on the side of Splyce. 32 minutes. And it's actually great to see them picking up Senkax. Enabled by that first gank from Trashy.
Yes.
Enabled on that first blood, and then he just ran away with this game.
Starts in a pick and ban phase. He gets a good matchup early on for himself. Graves jungle to assist him, so that's a great start. And then we talked so much about it in the game itself, how Giants are not looking to try and match Splyce 1v1 in side lanes. What happens? Multiple times Adam or Pepe runs into that side lane, gets blown up by the LeBlanc. He gets so many early kills, and obviously goes completely crazy when he gets the quadra kill.
Yeah.
But even leading up to that point, he got so fed from that, where Giants were honestly looking to just go 4-man mid, have Adam sit and hold the wave bot against Fiora, and just like push up that mid lane. Force Splyce to get into that mid lane and fight them, where you can use Alistar, where you can use Lulu. Lulu has no value sitting alone. You have to make a place a team and let her TP in. That happened too late from Giants. They realized 18, 19 minutes in, but there was already like 3-4 kills.
So that is a small glimmer of hope on the side of Giants, that they were able to punish the mistakes that Splyce put forward. But unfortunately, it simply didn't matter. But Songyaka, first game back on stage here in 2016, left a lot to be desired. But to be fair, the lanes fell behind before he really could have had a big impact on the match. And for Splyce, Senkax, can he keep that up against stronger opponents?
I mean, it's going to be tough to say because he's done against Rocket, he did it against Giants now.
Yeah.
We can't really ask for much more if we look at the last 2 games because he's doing what he's supposed to do.
Oh, yes.
Just keep being a massive carry if your team is giving you gold in the early game, you take that gold and you start carrying the rest of your team. Like, that's why they're ganking for him in the mid lane. So he's basically doing his job at the moment. The problem against better teams is that, first of all, they will have players who can hold you 1v1 in lane. Not that Pepe couldn't do it, but in this matchup it was tough. And also these teams will understand, okay, how do we avoid feeding him multiple kills outside of laning phase? That's where Giants really went wrong in this one. And they start giving him so many kills, that we normally wouldn't see.
It was also very good to see just how confidently Splyce did close the game out. Now, it is very easy when you've got this gigantic weapon.
Shot calling
on
becomes
the
very
front
fun.
line.
Just go forward and let him kill people.
But it is promising because so often we see teams that struggle, teams that are behind or lower down the table. They tend to be slower at finishing the game out. Tend to be slower to force the Baron hand, slower to force the tower dive. That was not the case today. I mean, Splyce literally ran down that middle inner turret. And Senkex is like, Alistair, I will force you away. That's it. They took the tower on the first attempt. So I really like seeing that. But they just need to tidy up those earlier mistakes with pressure on side lanes, giving up kills that they didn't need to.
It's the very small things we're seeing from Splyce. We're like, oh, this guy could maybe have been in the opposite lane, or oh, he shouldn't have gone aggressive here because these guys were missing, which do cost them. But we're seeing a big improvement compared to week 1, where honestly they would fall apart level 1 almost, and just like make mistakes in lane swaps and fall behind. We're not seeing that anymore.
No, definitely
So it's getting better and better. And like, as long as you beat the teams around you, that's enough to at least get towards the playoffs.
It really is. And almost roughly, Senkex dealt more damage than the entire Giants team combined. With that thought, we're going to head to Pyrotechnics on stage to take a look at how they picked up a win to start the day.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. I am joined by the man in the jungle. It is Trashy. First off, congratulations on your win. But I got to ask, you guys looked a lot tighter this game than you have in the previous 2 weeks. What's changed for Splyce as a team?
So first of all, when we started the split, we were actually really bad, I think. But with the help of Yamato, like, we are slowly growing into playing the way we should play, like play the map well, do the right things in game. And I think this game kind of showed in the way that we play the map well, we know what we want to do. And even though it was kind of a one-man show, then, I mean, we're still playing the map the way we should. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, Senkex is just too good.
Senkex is definitely too good. I want to ask you about him because I've been starting this guy on my fantasy team for 3 weeks now, and he finally is going to get me some points. Where has he been all this time?
Hiding, I think. Never mind, actually. He has always been good. Like, the way we have lost the games prior, like the first 3 games, was we didn't play the macro well, and we were playing a bit too scared, I think. So this game, we were just controlling ourselves, playing the way we should, and focusing on that, and I think we did okay.
It definitely showed through. So once again, congratulations. And now looking forward, you guys have got 2 wins on the board. Is this the start for the turnaround of Splyce?
Hopefully, yeah. Like, I'm really happy with how things go with us. Like, we put in so much effort. Like, everyone is trying their hardest every day, and I'm really happy with the situation. So if we don't do well, then it's probably our own fault. So I'm just really happy.
Modesty, always much appreciated. So last question for you now, Trashy. You guys are going up against Fnatic tomorrow. Tough team, but they've also had a rocky start. How confident are you that you can take them out?
I think we can beat any team on a good day. So if we play well, we can beat them. If we don't, then we'll probably lose. But I'm confident, so yeah, it will be fun.
There we go. Look out, Fnatic. Though we're going to go ahead and send it back to the analysts to break down another victory by Splyce.
Thank you very much, Pyrotechnics. Very level-headed words there coming out of Trashy after the second win for Splyce. Sadly, that also means that Giants still doesn't have a win on the board. And we wanted to take a closer look at their early game. Despite giving up first blood, they had some solid moves and actually ended up for the first time with a lead at 10 minutes. So what happened?
So yeah, this is what Defishi was touching on in Champs like then. Just in the early game, LeBlanc can always W in, and then you gotta get the charm off. If not, you get the chain into first blood. Right here, this phase right here, it's Audrey going into the longer lane as an AD carry in phase 2 of a lane swap. And while you may think, it's bad, they did force Windware's flash. But just to highlight that this is actually something that the Rocks Tigers do over in Korea in week 2 in their series against KT, both lane swap games. And here we already see a later phase where there was some more proactivity from Giants where they actually try to defend. So that's good, like they're being proactive in terms of defending their blue buff. But just to touch a little bit on that lane swap, that was something the Rocks Tigers did against KT in week 2 of the LCK over there. So it's not something random that's necessarily super bad. I'm still not a big fan of the play overall, But Giants isn't the only team in the world doing it. You know, if a team that just beat SKT does it, maybe there has to be some merit that we haven't discovered yet to that play.
What we did start seeing there, though, towards the end of that with the teleport down and the defense from Giants was that Giants didn't kind of let the game fall away from them completely. They were looking for the mid tower, defending when Splyce were pushing the wrong areas. And it's something that we actually saw kind of unravel a bit for Splyce when Senkux got ahead, when he got to 3-0. It seemed like he was the one that was like, hey, look, I'm going to go bot. I'm going to try and take the tower. And that could potentially be a problem for Splyce.
Could that be a problem? Let's take a look at some of the replays, because in this game, actually, it looked like he had everything under control. He was pushing bot, but then in the end managed to get a quadra kill.
Yeah, you basically lose the entire value of like split push setup when your mid laner is this fed. You know, you have pick number 1 coming here on Adam. He didn't have flash, had wild growth, but chose not to use it. Senkux gets the kill, and then there's more.
Yeah, there was a lot more of these kind of setups from Senkux, and this is where I think the shot calling can kind of deteriorate for Splyce. And I find it interesting, Trashy's talking about how, oh, you know, we were playing the map wrong before, now we're playing it right. I feel like you're playing the map very well for a LeBlanc that is this fed in this game, and it becomes very easy to just go, hey, I'm going to blow someone up.
Yeah, I think it's neither. Like, they're not playing it wrong here because, yeah, LeBlanc's killing everybody.
Exactly.
Just as she comes in here and gets a quadra kill. Beautiful exchange here, by the way. You're losing? Nope. 8-0 LeBlanc happens, but I don't think we can deduce too much from this game in terms of how well Splyce played the map. What we can deduce is that Senkux got a lead and he used it phenomenally, and he straight up carried this game.
Yeah, that is for sure. I'm glad to see there's growth on Splyce. I wouldn't sit there as a Splyce fan and be like, we're playing the map amazingly right now, guys. So there is improvement, there is growth. I hope it continues.
Yep.
2 wins on the board for Splyce. As is, we need to step away as the Nexus respawns, but when we return, Origin faces off against Roccat as both teams look to climb in the standings. We'll see you back here in just 3.5.
We're loading up onto the Rift for the first game of week 3. Chains have connected. Peppy cannot break the tether. First blood secured for Senka. Giants have found themselves another window of opportunity, but Sung Yaka goes forward as Audrey as going to help out for the additional kill. Whoa! Triple into quadra kill for Senkux.
That took him about 1.5 seconds to kill 4 people.
It's a kill credit over to Kabi. Flashes over the wall. Splyce, they see a dead Nexus in their sights, and they're chasing Giants away. They destroy the turrets, and they finish off the base.